All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. And as things are basically wrapped up for me talking about the upcoming college football season, you know what comes next, folks. It's time for all of that good old action in the National Football League. 32 teams, of course, will begin this season. And once we get to February, only one team will be remaining, and they will be the ones who will hoist the coveted Vince Lombardi trophy. Nonetheless, I'm here to give you a division by division breakdown of how I see things playing out for the upcoming NFL season. And I want to get things started tonight in talking about the NFC West. Now, this is a very interesting division because this decade, the only team in the NFC West who has not won the division has been the Arizona Cardinals. The Seahawks, of course, won it in 2020. The Rams in 2021 en route to winning the Super Bowl. The 49ers in 2022 and 2023. And then, of course, the Rams coming back next year. Mike, what's going on, man? Happy Monday to you. And you're saying Seahawks fan here. Got a good vibe about this season. Hang tight because I'm about to talk about your favorite team right there, my man. I'll tell you like this. It's going to be very interesting because you look at this division last year. The Rams won it at 10-7. They were tied with the Seahawks. But of course, Seattle, and of course, Mike, you know this, they didn't even get in to the postseason. And that was because the NFC itself was so contentious. We saw wild card teams like the Commanders win 12 games. The Packers win 11, and then the Vikings win 14. So, of course, you know, the NFC North had three bids last year for the postseason. The NFC East had two, and the NFC West had to settle for the division winner. And of course, that was the Rams. They finished tied with the same record as the Seahawks. And of course, Seattle won 10 games, still didn't get to the postseason. You're saying that NFC North was fake. Commanders are scary. Jaden Daniels is that good. Well, I'll say this about the NFC North. It was one of those last year I thought they were going to do more damage in the postseason, and of course, everybody there was not kind of, it was one and done. It was reminiscent for me of when you see a conference in college basketball that has a lot of bids for the NCAA tournament. You know, they're being talked up a lot, but when it's all said and done, most of their big guys, most of the big schools from that respective league are sent home in either round one or round number two. But nonetheless, let's get things started with this NFC West. And I want to kick it off, Mike, so hang tight, and I want to hear what you got to say. And I want to talk about your Seattle Seahawks. And this is a team right here, like I said, they finished each of the last 2 years with a winning record. But of course, they ended up watching the postseason at home like the rest of us. It's transition time for the Seahawks as they've moved on, of course, from Pete Carroll, who's now the head coach of the Raiders, to Mike McDonald, not to be confused with Michael McDonald of the Doobie Brothers. But nonetheless, they finished, like I said, they finished the last 2 years with a winning record, no postseason. And now they're breaking in a new quarterback. A lot of people were interesting. We're going to be interested to see what were they going to do last year, after last year. Was it going to get a young quarterback, you know, stick with Geno Smith? And the Seahawks did something completely different, completely unexpected. They got into the Sam Darnold sweepstakes. And of course, a lot of people a couple of years ago really thought that Sam Darnold was a bust. And I was one of those people who said, you know what? He just needed to get out of the Jets organization. As we've seen, especially at the quarterback position, things don't work out for young quarterbacks with the New York Jets. They need to go someplace else. And of course, Sam Darnold bounced around a couple of places as a backup. And then, of course, he went to the Vikings last year, was expected to compete with J.J. McCarthy for the starting job. And then, of course, J.J. had the ACL injury in preseason, and of course he was put on the shelf for the year. And the job was Sam Darnold's, but nobody expected Sam Darnold to put up the numbers that he did. And of course, the Vikings knew that they weren't going to keep Sam Darnold long term, especially for the price tag that he basically got from the Seattle Seahawks. But nonetheless, Seattle, they brought in Sam Darnold. Of course, they traded Geno Smith to the Raiders, so now he's in the desert with Pete Carroll. And now you got to wonder, and this is going to be the $1 million question that is definitely going to be answered this season. Sam Darnold, was it real or was it fake as far as the season goes? But more importantly, has he turned the corner in his NFL career, or is he about to become another version of Scott Mitchell and Rob Johnson? And of course, old school football fans know what I'm talking about. Scott Mitchell subbed in for an injured Dan Marino, had a couple of good games. The Detroit Lions saw enough. They figured, you know what? We're going to bring him in to be our quarterback. The rest is history. Rob Johnson had one good game, substituting for Mark Brunell to begin the '97 season with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They won that game. They went on the road and eked it out against the Baltimore Ravens. Next thing you know, the Buffalo Bills saw enough, and they wanted to make Rob Johnson their guy. And, of course, Rob Johnson, it didn't work out for him in Buffalo. And, of course, that was the opening that Doug Flutie needed to show that, hey, you know what? I can get it done in the NFL. So we got to see if Sam Darnold has turned this corner, or is he going to be another quarterback in that category? Now, make no mistake about it. Perfect situation for Sam Darnold last year. Nothing was expected of him. He played indoors primarily for the Vikings at US Bank Stadium. On top of that, you know what? Just get the football to Justin Jefferson and get out of his way. All right. So you don't have a Justin Jefferson with Seattle. And of course, we saw the Seahawks this offseason trade wide receiver DK Metcalf to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They also released longtime wide receiver Tyler Lockett. But recently, we saw Seattle draft former Ohio State wide receiver Jackson Smith and Jingba in round number 1. And it looks like, you know what, he's going to be their top receiving target. On top of that, we saw Seattle bring in former Los Angeles Rams wide receiver Cooper Kupp. And for me with Kupp, it's one of those where just a couple of years ago, prior to the injuries, Kupp was tearing it up. I mean, he was one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League. And, of course, the injuries have been there for him with the Rams. And then, of course, we've seen the emergence of Puka Nacua. Nonetheless, I think Cooper Kupp is going to come into this season with something to prove. And I think he's going to come into this season with a chip on his shoulder, which should be advantage Seattle. Defensively for the Seahawks, you've got the big cat on the defensive line and Leonard Williams, and he's looking to build off of that strong 2024 season where he had 11 sacks. Seattle also brought in former Dallas Cowboys defensive end DeMarcus Lawrence. And, of course, the question is going to be, how much does the veteran have left in the tank? I like the Seahawks linebacking core with Derek Hall, Ernest Jones, and Tyrese Knight. And I like this back end of the Seahawks defense in their secondary with the likes of veteran Pro Bowl safety Julian Love, corners Reek Wallen, and Devin Weatherspoon. And for me, this is a perfect type of defense for Seahawks head coach Mike Macdonald, because Mike Macdonald likes to get after you. Mike Macdonald likes depth. Mike Macdonald, of course, likes talent. And I think the Seahawks defense is going to make an impact for them this season. Now, right out of the chute, Seattle will host San Francisco to begin this season. And then you look at the back end of the slate for the Seahawks this year. Week 11, they're at the Rams. That could be a big one. Week 13, they host the Minnesota Vikings. So, of course, Sam Darnold gets to see one of his former teams. Week number 16, the Seahawks host the Rams. And then week number 18, they are at San Francisco. And speaking of those 49ers, okay, they had a 2024 to forget, because just like it was following their Super Bowl season of 2019, 2020 was a year to forget for them, as they were done in by the injury bug after they lost the championship game to Kansas City. And that was basically what happened for the 49ers last year, as they went 6-11. But of course, hope springs eternal for a new season. And of course, what we've seen from San Francisco right now is a retooling. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, they've basically given the keys to the franchise to Brock Purdy, and you knew that this was going to come at some point. And of course, the Niners gave Brock Purdy that huge 5-year extension for $265 million. And it's about time that we're going to see whether or not Brock Purdy is going to be the guy, or is he simply a product of the system. Nonetheless, you've paid Brock Purdy, but it's still about the people around him. You need a healthy Christian McCaffrey this year if you're San Francisco. He only appeared in 4 games last year. That's not going to get it done. They need him healthy because, number one, his ability to run the football, and also his ability coming out of the backfield as a receiver. No more Deebo Samuel at wide receivers. He's now a Washington Commander. You look at this wide receiver unit for the Niners. Will Brandon Ayuk be able to stay healthy this year? Jawan Jennings has become Brock Purdy's go-to guy. And then, of course, you've got George Kittle at tight end, who continues to be George Kittle. This offensive line, you're bringing back veteran offensive tackle Trent Williams, and of course, the future Hall of Famer is 37 years old. How much does that guy still have left in the tank? We got to wait and see. A trip down memory lane for this Niners defensive. We've seen them go through defensive coordinators in the last couple of years, but now they're going old school. They're going back to Robert Saleh, and of course, Robert Saleh made a name for himself as San Francisco's defensive coordinator when they won the NFC back in 2019. And of course, that led to him getting the head coaching position with the New York Jets. And of course, we all know Robert Saleh was let go midseason last year by the Jets. You knew that he was going to get another defensive coordinator job and be back on his feet. And you know what? There's no place like home. Now, granted, Robert Saleh doesn't have the names on his defensive line right now like he did when he was the defensive coordinator in San Francisco the first time around. However, Robert Saleh still knows how to coach up a defense, especially the defensive line. And I guarantee you the Niners are going to get back to the basics as far as getting after the quarterback, and it begins with defensive end Nick Bosa. Middle linebacker Fred Warner continues to be one of the best in the game. I've got questions about the Niners back four, but nonetheless, if they can get pressure up front, it's going to help out this secondary. That week 1 game between San Francisco and Seattle is huge. Why? Because everybody took their opportunity beating up on San Francisco last year. And I say this because not because the 49ers were necessarily blown out, but they only went 1-5 in this division. And for the Niners to bounce back and for the Niners to get back to being a playoff team potentially this year, they've got to get back to basics in this division, and they've got to take care of their business. 1-5 once again ain't going to get it done. But Changus, my man, what's going on, man? Happy Monday to you. I hope all is well with you in your end of the world, my man. Week number 5, the Niners are at the Rams, and Niners-Rams, this rivalry goes back decades. It's always a big game. Week 10, the Niners will get the Rams coming to Santa Clara. So let's see if San Francisco can take care of their business in this division. You said they're going to be a playoff team this year. Hang tight, because I got my prediction for this division crown this year. Speaking of those Rams, okay, we know back in 2017 that Sean McVay was hired to be the head coach in LA. And of course, since he's been there, they were hopeful that he was going to be able to change that culture, and he has. Because in 6 of his 8 years with the Rams, they've been a playoff team, and of course, they got the 2nd Super Bowl championship in franchise history. And we saw them last year get back to the playoffs, and the Rams arguably were playing some of, if not the best football in the NFL when they were eliminated. And I know when they lost that game in the divisional round to Philly last year, there were some people who were hoping that the game was played in better elements. And I'm at the other end of the spectrum. That's what home field advantage is about in football. And of course, that snow was a difference in Philadelphia for that. So, all of these cold weather teams that want to build domes and stuff like that to attract more events, you got to think about those things as well. But nonetheless, heading into this season, The Rams definitely have a team that could make a Super Bowl run here. Okay, we saw them flirt with trading veteran quarterback Matthew Stafford this offseason, and you know what? Cooler heads prevailed, and at the end of the day, the Rams are the best fit for Matthew Stafford, and Matthew Stafford is the best quarterback for the Rams right now. They gave him some hush money. He's got a new deal, so hopefully all parties are happy. But again, when you've got a veteran quarterback uh, like the Rams do, you got to keep him healthy and you got to keep him upright. Okay, those are two big things. Kyron Williams, we saw him run the football for more than 1,300 yards last season, but even in spite of that, LA was still 24th in the league in running. I talked about the Seahawks picking up Cooper Cup, and Pachangas, to your point, Seahawks fans definitely should be excited about that team because they do have a good team. Cooper Cup's there now as far as that receiving core goes. He was pushed out of LA due to the emergence of Puka Nakua. And it's not just Puka Nakua because let's not forget, and this is something that I feel has slid under the radar. The Rams picked up veteran wide receiver Devontae Adams. And of course, it didn't work out for Devontae wins wise with the Raiders. And then, of course, he went to the Jets. I think this is going to be his best opportunity to be a part of a championship team here with the Rams. And now you've got him. And then, of course, you got Puka Nakua. And, of course, with Puka Nakua, you got to keep him healthy. He was only available for 11 games last year for LA. That has to change. And I think aside from keeping Puka Nakua healthy, the Rams are getting tight end Tyler Higbee back. And Tyler Higbee is a guy that, you know what, he flies under the radar when you start focusing on the receivers too much. And now the Rams have two good wide receivers in Puka Nakua and Devontae Adams. So I think Tyler Higbee can have a big year. And for all of you guys out there that play fantasy football, he could be a sleeper for you. Just my thoughts right there. Last year in the postseason, we saw Jared Verse really start to figure it out as a pass rusher. And you just have to wonder, will the momentum that he started to build towards the end of the season carry over? You know, it's one of those things, and this is just in sports with rookies, especially in the NFL. People want to see these guys come in and get busy right away like they did in college. Doesn't always work out like that. And I think, again, Jared Verse was starting to figure it out at the end of the season. And hopefully, for the sake of the Rams, it's something that can carry over to this year. So you look at the Rams, and they won the NFC West last year, and I think they're going to be in that mix again. Now, week number 3, they're at Philadelphia, and of course, there's no love lost right now between the Eagles and the Rams. I talked about that week 5 showdown where they get San Francisco at home. Week 6, they're at Baltimore. Week 10, they're at San Francisco, and then week 15, they get Detroit at home, and that could be a big game as far as playoff seeding goes. And last but certainly not least in this division, you've got the Arizona Cardinals. And of course, like I said, the Cardinals are the only team in the NFC West who has not won this division this decade. Matter of fact, you got to go back to 2015 to find the last time that the Bird Gang won this division. Jonathan Gannon is set to begin his 3rd season as the head coach of the Cards. And you got to wonder if this is going to be the year that he can get them to the postseason. And if he doesn't, are the Cardinals going to go in another direction at head coach? We got to wait and see. But nonetheless, Arizona has been a Jekyll and Hyde team, as you simply never know what you're going to get from them. And I think Arizona's fortunes start and begin with their quarterback in Kyler Murray. This offense is only going to go as far as he takes them. He's been cutting down on his sacks. On top of that, I think he's really physically getting comfortable again after the knee surgery. And, you know, sometimes it takes athletes a little bit of time to get back into the form. Big thing, big question mark for Arizona. Can they get more consistency from wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr.? Okay, he did not have the rookie year that everybody anticipated him having. Okay, you know, we saw him tear it up in college at Ohio State. We know who his father is, a Hall of Fame wide receiver. And, you know, even with all of those accolades, sometimes it's not as easy for guys to come in and tear it up right away. So let's see what the transition from year 1 to year number 2 is going to be for Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he has a bigger year. You look at Trey McBride at tight end. Nobody expected Trey McBride to have the season that he did last year. 111 receptions for more than 1,100 yards. He's going to get more attention this year, but I think, he's still a good safety valve in that offense for Kyler Murray. And then, of course, the Iron Horse at running back in James Conner. And the reason why I call him the Iron Horse is the more you give him the football, the more effective that he is. He's a big, powerful back, and he just keeps coming at you, okay? You look at this Arizona defense. They went old school. They're bringing back veteran defensive end Calais Campbell. And, yeah, Calais Campbell has some tread on the tires, but the bottom line is he continues to produce. And more importantly, he's going to be a leader in that locker room and on the field for this Cardinals team. We saw Arizona sign former Philadelphia Eagles outside linebacker Josh Sweat. And of course, Sweat has familiarity with head coach Jonathan Gannon. Why? Because Jonathan Gannon was his defensive coordinator when he was drafted by the Eagles. I talked about the experience that Calais Campbell brings to the table. Now you bring in a Josh Sweat, and he brings in Super Bowl championship experience from last year's team with Philadelphia. There's been talks the last couple of years about the Cardinals trading Buda Baker. Buda Baker not being happy, but the bottom line is all Buda Baker does is continue to improve, to produce. He's one of the best players in the NFL at his position, and I think he keeps that up. Again, like I said, for Arizona, it's going to be wherever Kyler Murray takes them in this division. I'm looking at the NFC West right now. I think all 4 of these teams have the potential to finish the year with a winning record. I think 3 of the teams have a very good chance of getting to the postseason. And again, those division games are going to be so important. It's going to come down to the quarterback play. It's going to come down to the turnovers, and it's going to come down to executing as far as winning. Whether you've got the Rams taking on the Niners taking on the Seahawks, the Rams taking on the Seahawks, the Rams, Cardinals, Niners, Cardinals. We could go right down the list. Okay, but nonetheless, I think those division games are going to be so important in this division. The 49ers do have themselves an advantage because, of course, they finished in last place in this division, so they get themselves a last place schedule. But nonetheless, you still got to go out there and take care of your business. I think the Niners are going to be hungry to try to get back on track after last season. And I think, getting Christian McCaffrey back healthy is going to be big. And also the return of Robert Saleh. The Seahawks team, I really want to see how Sam Darnold plays. And for me, several things. Is Sam Darnold going to press after Seattle gave him the money? And then also dealing with the season in Seattle as the year progresses with the wind and the rain and the cold when it's November and December. How's Sam Darnold going to deal with that? We got to wait and see. Can the Rams keep Matthew Stafford healthy? That's going to be a big question right there. I think this is going to be a very tightly contested division, but I'm going to give the slight edge in winning the NFC West this year to Los Angeles. Like I said, Seattle and San Francisco, I truly do think are going to be playoff contenders. Arizona, possibly. Okay, possibly. But I definitely think San Francisco bounces back. I like the direction that the Seahawks are going with Mike McDonald. The way that he's building this team, and of course, John Schneider is still there. Okay, just like he worked so diligently with Pete Carroll. But they're building this team kind of like how Pete Carroll and John Schneider built it, when they were able to win the Super Bowl more than a decade ago. But nonetheless, Seattle's going to be an exciting team. I think San Francisco has something to prove. And then, of course, the Rams with Sean McVay, he just continues to go out there and churn out wins. But like I said, I'm going to give the slightest of slight edges in this division to the Rams. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw on this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. Like I always say, It is greatly appreciated. And as we are rolling towards a new NFL season, talked about the NFC West tonight. Tomorrow is going to be all things NFC North. Mike, you had a lot to say about the NFC North earlier, so definitely if you got an opportunity, please check it out tomorrow. Pachangis, you're saying you think Sam Darnold has figured it out. 49ers is the team in that tough division. It's going to be neck and neck, and those division games are going to be so important. Mike, you're saying this division is going to be close. Trust me, when I say close, and my thing is this, it would not surprise me to see the Rams, Niners, and Seahawks all finishing within a game or two of each other. So again, it is going to come down to those divisional games, those divisional contests. You've got to take care of your business in those games. Like I said, nobody won more than 4 games in this division last year. Both the Rams and Seahawks went 4-2. The Cards were 3-3, and then of course the Niners were 1-5. And of course, it was one of those situations with the Niners. In a lot of those games, they had leads late and they simply blew them. Okay, so they definitely got to try to find a way to get back on track, and it is going to be extremely contentious. But nonetheless, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you give me that follow, I will give you that follow in return. And the same can be said for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Also, if you're on Facebook, you can check us out at the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports debating groups going around social media. And no, that's no bias, okay, in my opinion. Mike, definitely appreciate you chiming in. Please don't be a stranger to this channel. It's definitely, your comments are definitely appreciated. Pachangis, my man, as always, much love. And until next time, for all of you other fine folks out there, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.